Hello, and welcome to, I believe it's the 8th episode of Gaming with
Something like
Soul.
that.
Yeah, something like that. Seeking Soul through the lens of pop culture and gaming. I may have swapped the end of that around. I don't care. Moving on.
Close enough.
Hello, my name is Jamie.
And hi, I'm Corin.
People are going to be like, he'll someday get it right, or he'll never get it right.
Just
Ever.
end up being a running gag that you won't get it right on purpose from here on in, just
Ah,
because people expect it of you.
fair, I guess, but I wouldn't do that on purpose. I might do that on purpose, not on purpose.
Hey, leave the dolphins alone.
Why? They don't leave people alone.
Oh, well, no, I won't go into that. That was a
No,
terrible,
no.
terrible running gag. It
It's
was a guilt. It was an old guild gag. It was terrible. Oh, dear me. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, that's right.
happens in the cave stays in.
Guess what happens in guild chat stays in guild chat.
Yeah. Uh, today, today we are discussing Shadow Sovereign. See, we said we'd come back to it, and we came back to it.
Well,
Though,
it seems a good place to come because we kind of, well, our big red bearded friend, he took us through, or we went through hero, we went through warrior, we went through sovereign, and at the end of endgame, he actually goes into shadow sovereign,
yep.
and it seems a perfect time to come back round to Shadow Sovereign now, and he seems okay with that. So we can stop talking about him.
Fair enough. For now.
We're talking about Thor, if you hadn't figured
Yeah.
it out and you hadn't listened to last week's episode. Yes, we had a big, long discussion about Thor, his place in the modern world, how much he has a sense of humor about the way Marvel portrays him, and the fact that he actually loves the fact that they've made him a superhero, because what better for a god of heroes to
Yeah.
have been made a superhero in the modern age? Of course he loves it. And yes, the
Yeah.
Divine have much more of a sense of humour, and they don't take themselves halfway as seriously as we do.
Yeah.
So he was all for that, which is often why Thor was depicted naked, because he was very, very proud.
Yeah.
And again, they were trying to make a fun of Thor's physique at the end of Endgame, where he kind of had let himself go.
Yeah.
That was actually
Was
kind of typical of Viking physique. It was actually the sign of affluent Viking, a strong upper body and a belly, because it
yeah.
meant they were rich enough to eat,
Yeah.
that they were
Yeah.
abundant, that they had food, that they had animals, that they had harvests, that they could eat well enough to actually be bellied, was seen
Well,
as a positive thing in
tell you
those
what,
days.
I look like a rich Norseman then.
What was it was the thing back in the day that the Greek goddesses were round and rolly. Oh,
Yeah.
don't get me started on the fashion industry. I studied fashion for a little bit. Very, very quick thing, just you probably end up deleting this, but the reason size zero fashions are what models wear is simply to save the designers money.
Huh.
The smaller the garments they have to make, the less fabric, the less time, the less work. It is all about money. And this
Huh.
is from the inside of the fashion industry. And why I didn't pursue fashion as a career?
That's
Because,
crazy.
yeah, it was all about, it all ended up being about money. Because back
Well,
in the,
that's
female physique, the motherly, you wanted
mhm.
hips and rolls and curves and things like that. But yeah,
Yep.
when designers wanted to make these big, fancy, expensive dresses, of course it's cheaper to make one in size zero than it is to make one in a 16.
Yeah.
And it's a disgusting peeve of mine that yeah, it was purely driven by the dollar. That whole waif image, it was driven by the dollar. It's, yeah, drives me
Most
nuts.
things are, especially in our current, you know.
Garments, true. Mind you, this started, it started back in the past. I think it started post-war, where garments, I mean, garment dress sizes shrunk. I mean, the skirt hems came up quite a bit in those days. And that was simply because fabric was hard because of the wars. But then the sizes shrunk again, just it was all to save people money. But that's my girly rant. It has nothing to do with Sovereign, but yes, it was to do with a little bit about how Thor was portrayed as being,
Yep.
you know, it was supposed to be this big joke that he was all fat and rolly, whereas that actually is pretty standard, you know, healthy Norseman, very
Yep.
healthy Norseman. He had the muscles, he had the upper body strength, he had the rip,
Yep.
but he had the belly.
They also
People sort of said,
6 feet
sorry?
tall. And they also averaged at 6 feet tall and were quite healthy.
And that was because they ate well.
Yep. Yep.
Meat in particular, it was a protein-rich diet because, of course, the cold environments weren't great for harvesting and crops, but, of course, hunting, you could fish, you could, you know, there was meat.
Yep.
So it was a high-protein diet that made them big and strong and the dense muscle mass, and it also allowed them to survive the harsh weather because, of course, you wanted extra meat in those cold environments because it stopped you from freezing to death.
Yep. And things like they actually took time to learn about human anatomy to be able to heal certain ailments. Fun little facts I learned once. Things like they learned field dressing because when one of them would fall in battle, you know, they could pull them back and like splint a leg or whatever. Because on top of it, it is a very cold environment and people, you know, people don't survive long out there. So they very much valued life a lot more than, let's say, the English and other people they were warring with at the time.
You would find, though, it has a lot to do, though, with the worth of the person, and that was a big thing in those days. Some people were cheap and some were not. And it's a horrid way of thinking things, but that was just life. I mean, peasants and you know, those working the farms, not so much slaves, but you know, just the commoners working the fields. Those lives were very, very cheap. But you had a general or a soldier or a warrior of some note go to great lengths to preserve those lives. And it was more, not so much a, you know, this life is worth more than that. It was this life has proven its worth by doing. Now, of course, opportunity to do that thing is a different story again, but this person had done these deeds and had proven the worth, that it was worth keeping them alive. Whereas this one is just like, oh, well, there's another dozen like them.
Correct.
And it's horrid, but that was life. And again, when people complain about life today, it's like, no, actually, we're a lot better than we used to be.
Yeah.
Still got a long way to go, but we are getting better. But yeah, at the end of Endgame, Thor went from, well, he had slipped into Shadow Sovereign.
Yeah.
And right at the end where he abdicates and gives over his throne, his rights to rulership to Valkyrie, is actually one of the embodiments of the Weakling Sovereign, which is the passive aspect of the Shadow Sovereign, which is Weakling, one who gives away power. They don't want the power. They don't want the responsibility. Now, of course, Thor did that so he could step back into hero, which is his preferred archetype, which is why he is happy to hand power back. Once he's done the duty and once he's filled the role, he is happy to hand that back. But this also shows how the shadow, we can embody the divine and the shadow at the same time. We can embody the passive and the aggressive aspects of shadow at the same time. We can, and that's just it. We all embody it all. It's just to what degree is dominant in that present moment. And this is what we are trying to bring awareness to, because the more aware we are of this stuff, and non-judgmentally aware, as if to say, oh, look, I'm doing this thing. If I can catch that, if I can catch myself when I do that, I can actually make some significant changes in my life, which ultimately lead us to being happier, living more wholly, being more in our own truth, finding what gives us joy and healing, which is at the end of the day what we're after.
Yep.
But okay, one thing we didn't talk on though, when we talked about sovereign, we didn't talk about immature sovereign. Like we did with hero and warrior. Hero is immature warrior. Now sovereign, which of course was king and queen. We're not using king and queen because to use those terms ends up putting the feminine at a disadvantage. So we will just use sovereign, masculine, feminine as the full embodiment of. Full embodiment of immature sovereign is something that is referred to as the divine child.
Okay.
Now, divine child, I mean, when we think of divine child in mythology, obviously, we come up with things like Jesus, the baby Horus, who was, conceived by Isis after she reassembled Osiris, tore him to pieces. The baby Buddha, the baby Moses, these children. Now, if anyone has ever met one of these kids that has come into this world with an old soul, you've held a baby or you've been in the presence of a child, and it's like, what is with this kid? There is just something old about them, wise about them, special about them. Now I'm going to embarrass my eldest a little bit. Sorry, Xander. My eldest, when he was born, he came into this world, he didn't make a peep. No cries, no whimpers, no nothing. He came into this world with a frown on his face. This ancient he looked like a little old man with this grumpy ass look on his face, like, I have to do this shit again? God damn it. And he did. He looked at everybody with this frown. It's like, oh, shit. Oh, humanity. Oh, here we go again. And through him, I mean, he's the most amazing young man. He's 14 now. He has willpower like I have never come across. He has wisdom. He has depth. He's very much me and his father. He goes off with the fairies quite a bit. He gets lost in his own thoughts. But he also has that divine leadership aspect, which in children rises as bossy boots.
Yeah.
Leadership potential in children rises as bossy britches. Sorry?
Haley kind of does that too a little. The bossiness.
The bossy britches, yeah. The bossy boots comes out in children that have sovereign as one of their main archetypes. And it is a hard thing as a parent to know how to encourage that leadership potential, but get them to keep the bossy britches under control. Because a lot of the time the bossy britches comes from that I'm trying to keep people safe and want to keep everyone under, doing what they're supposed to be doing. But of course, when it comes from a kid, it comes off as a little pretentious, arrogant, unwanted in a lot of ways, and their meaning or the motivation behind it gets lost. So it is a hard thing to nurture in children without them either staying in that bossiness, but also to not dim that light.
Yeah.
Because this could be a future world leader in this child that we need to nurture and encourage that aspect of them. So it ends up being up to us to teach them healthy ways to exert that leadership without them coming off as bossy.
Yeah.
But it is still that divine aspect. We also see that divine element in those children, those moments in a child where they're just free. You see this freedom in some kids where they're just, absolute not a care in the world. Now, there's a memes and things going around that people say, do you remember this girl? She used to live inside you. And I'm looking at her going, no, I don't remember her. I don't think I've ever had that. But divine child is the pure essence of childlike innocence within ourselves. That is another element, especially when you're working with the Jungian psychology and shadow work. Divine child is inner child, is that pure aspect of inner child within us all that has curiosity about everything. That
Yeah.
anything that happens in their life, it's like, okay, this happened. Why? Isn't that interesting? It brings out that curiosity. It's like some terrible thing can happen, and it's like, wow, that's a really interesting thing that happened at that time. And it keeps that ability to just express it as another stage of the adventure. And it's like in D&D, it's just like, this is a side quest that's just popped up. Wow, what's this? Yeah, that looks like shit. Why did that happen? And it gives us that healthy attitude about it. And it's not about disconnecting from it, but having a level of perspective as the, okay, this shit has happened. It's not because of this or this or this. It's just this thing. How do we deal with that? And just having this curiosity. But having a purely embodied divine child also is what allows us to experience joy. Real joy, real happiness, that let go of everything else and just truly live and exist in this moment, because it's not about happy life. There's no such thing as a happy life, not real, no life will be pure happiness. It doesn't exist. You know, if it does, then there's something wrong upstairs, because life doesn't work that way. But it's about being able, sorry?
There's a YouTuber I watch who's always happy, and somebody was pointing that out to him once. They're like, "Oh, you're always so positive and so happy," and he goes, "Yeah, I'm fairly certain it's a chemical imbalance in my brain." Like, just straight laced, dead serious. One of the things he says, like, and I like, and it's not one of those he's making a joke. I legitimately think that he believes that and is probably right.
Well, look, some people are blessed enough to just have that wiring to be able to go, oh, well, and just shrug it off and get on with it. And let's face it, that's an awesome bloody place to live from. We should all be so bloody lucky to be able to be hit like a freight train by something in our life and just go, wow, that was a thing that happened. Okay, how do I deal with it? All right, yep, just another thing, and get on with it.
Yeah.
Some people don't, some people are able to live from that place because life is just kind of smooth and doesn't have the ups and downs. But generally, even you can be a happy person and still have those shit moments. You can live a life that is great most of the time, but of course you're going to have those moments where not everything is going according to plan, or this bad thing has happened or that bad thing has happened. And it's a moment. It's not life. And that's the same with joy. It's like these are moments. And when we have these moments where there is just joy to be had, we have to get out of our own fucking way. We have to get out of our own minds. We have to get out of our own heads and actually allow ourselves to live in this moment, rather than living in our heads in another moment and not existing in this one. And that's what Divine Child teaches us, that ability to say, you know what, I'm here for now. I'm here for this. Everything else, it'll be there after. It'll be there when I'm done with this. I'll deal with it then. Right now, I'm here for this. And I'm going to live this, and I'm going to experience this, and I'm going to milk it for everything. That divine child is absolute beauty from it. Now, in adults, we can also always, as with Hero, we can also embody those aspects. And in divine child in adult still comes up as a needy adult.
Yeah.
Because the immature is there is an element of neediness, just like Hero. Hero had the neediness for either recognition or the kudos or some sort of reward for his action. Divine Child wants the attention. That's what Divine Child wants, to be the focus of attention. But Divine Child does it in such a way that when you give them your attention, you get something from it. And usually when interacting with these divine children, they're inspirational. They inspire you, they uplift you, they make you feel better just being around them when they are young. And in an adult form, Divine Child is the needy friend who always makes you feel awesome.
Yeah.
You do something or help them in some way and they make you feel better about you. That's that Divine Child aspect that can come through. There's the neediness, but in order for you, when you respond to that need, you will get something from it. It's not a one way, it's a give take. It's beautifully in balance. Now, the shadow of Divine Child and the shadow of Sovereign, they're almost identical. There's just slight rewordings on them. And in virtually every aspect of real stories and games and things like that, we usually have a villain who is a shadow of one of these. And the shadow generally ends up we'll just go mature to start with. The Shadow Sovereign, we have Tyrant and what is known as Weakling.
Yep.
There's a few other different names to it, but generally, let's just say Weakling. It's Tyrant and Weakling. For the shadow forms of the Divine Child, we have what is called High Chair Tyrant. And in the masculine, it's called the Weakling Prince. We could go Weakling Prince, Broken Princess, but I think Broken Princess is a slightly different element, but has aspects of the same. So instead of saying the Weakling Prince, let us use a tarot terminology and go the Weakling Page.
Yeah.
The page is gender neutral.
Now, without knowing enough, I would guess Broken Princess is probably closer to lover, like a shadow lover.
To a degree, and I think Broken Princess is actually probably one of those archetypes that sits in between both.
Yeah.
The victim of wounded lover or passive lover, but also because princess has the demand of sovereign, has the demand
That's
of
fair.
the neediness of, because their princess implies of a line of leadership.
Yeah.
So there is the leadership aspects is in there. It's either the power or the the need to dominate over other comes through in the princess form, but that lover plays the victim, come rescue me kind of an aspect to a degree. So it's one of those blended. But I think, if we just go with the Weakling Page as a gender neutral, because again, we're talking gender neutrals. You know what? I would love to start a movement. So let's find new terms for masculine and feminine.
Yeah.
I think we need to start some kind of revolution. What can we call them instead? These energies, what can we call them instead? Because I think it would stop so many problems if we can actually say, okay, this energetic is this, and this energetic is this. It has nothing to do with male, female. These are these separate energetics. Now, every male and female and those who are undefined are a blend of these two things, but they're not male and female. But anyway.
Based upon what I've heard from you, from what is the difference between the male and the female archetype, I would assume the feminine, not female. I shouldn't use the terms male and female. Either way, the feminine would probably a decent replacement term would be emotional. The emotional from the emotional energy. I don't know.
And again,
male would probably be logical.
And I mean, when you look into
the
masculine, if you look into the Hinduism and their look at Shakti and Shiva, as Shakti is the feminine and Shiva is the masculine. Basically, the masculine is seen as transcendent, and the feminine is considered as embodiment. And that is the feeling versus the thought of mind, of body.
Yeah.
So yes, it is very much, but again, there's nuances where emotional and logic don't quite work either.
That's fair. Again, this is just from
it works to a degree, just like the masculine and feminine works to a degree. Yeah. So it's why they kind of need their own terms, but from a psychological perspective and from psychology, these are the terms. So not just psychology, but anthropology as well. These are the terms that are generally used.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's go. We'll go with Weakling to start with. The Weakling in Sovereign. Now, whether this is, Divine Child, the Weakling manifests more as the little whimpery. They want everything. And there's not a lot of presence to them, but they whine and they complain. They don't fight. They don't throw tantrums. However, silent treatment, shutting down, You know, they want everyone to make every decision for them, but then hate everybody for doing it.
Yeah.
This is sorry?
They want but they're not willing to work for.
So much are not willing to work for it. The idea with Weakling is it's Tyrant and Weakling are the opposite shadows, because when you are standing in Sovereign, the thing that you are standing in is your full aligned power. Sovereign is about that aligned power, and it is heart-led power. It is about emotional-led, soul-led, heart-led. Whereas Tyrant is about taking power, taking from other, whereas Weakling is about giving it away. And that's oversimplifying, but when we want to break it down to its simplest forms, that's what it is. Weakling gives their power away so they don't have to take responsibility. If someone else's decision, then if it goes wrong, it's not my fault. If my life sucks, it's not my fault. If someone else is in control and making my decisions, it's not my fault. It's their fault. It's all their fault.
Yeah.
And it puts them in this permanent victim mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, I know several people like that.
Don't we all? I mean, hell, I can be honest and say I've been there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there have been times in my life where I've wanted to give my power away so someone else can make the decision.
Yeah.
I mean, I can even own times in my youth where I wanted someone else. So when it did go to shit, I could have blamed them.
Yeah.
It's taken me a long time to get to a point where I can own that.
Yeah.
But I can admit, now.
I even do that nowadays at work. Every now and then I will go out of my way to ask my boss, hey, you know, this is a thing. We probably shouldn't be doing this thing, but if you say to do this thing, if it goes wrong, it's your fault, not mine.
And that's owning that aspect of it. So there's nothing wrong with it, especially when you can come at it saying, I'm owning this, but if I can use this as a tool to my benefit. That's the difference. I mean, in a way, you weren't really giving your power away. You kind of were, but you weren't really. So there's that fine line. That's probably how to do it healthy.
Yeah.
And again, we're talking about this stuff in a sense that there's no judgment. We're not saying, oh, if you do this, you are a horrible person. No, you're not. You're just human. If you've got these shadow behaviors inside yourself, this is not something to hate yourself for. This is something to say, oh, shit. Yeah, maybe I am doing that. Maybe this is causing some problems for me. Okay, I can fix this. Now I know this is an issue. Now I've shone a light on it and said, okay, this is something that I need to do something about because it is causing me problems.
Yeah.
Then the more whole and the more healthy you are. So we are not pointing fingers and say this is bad. Like I said, I can identify a lot of it. I'm going through doing this research on all these different archetypes. I'm going, yep, I can identify with that. Yep, I can identify with that. Yep, 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 yep. I've done that. I've done that. I've done that. And that is the true ability to heal, is to be able to own it. And the more you can say, yeah, okay, yeah, I have done that. I do that. Why? And then unravel as to why. Seek help if you need to. Unravel as to why. And that's when you can start healing.
Yeah.
It's messy and it's ugly, but it's worth it. But the very first step to all of it is just owning it. Owning it. Because the more you own it, the less power it has over you. But yeah, as a child, the weakling, they just, yeah, they're these shut down little things. And again, Tyrant and Weakling go hand in hand, because we actually see this a lot where Tyrant, you know, high chair Tyrant, sorry, can go all ego and demanding and blah, blah, blah. And then when everything goes against them and doesn't go their way, they shut down into Weakling.
Yeah.
And will give it all away. And then something else will trigger them, and then they will go back into Tyrant again. High chair Tyrant, especially high chair Tyrant in an adult embodiment, one of the best ways we can point that out is to look at the behavior of some celebrities.
Yeah.
Okay, the look at me, tantrum. You know, they want everything, they demand everything, feel they're entitled to everything and give nothing.
Yeah.
It is just, they are narcissistic.
Yeah.
Even in child form, they're narcissistic.
Yeah, and people will be like, "Oh, they give great performances and blah blah blah." That doesn't entitle you to everything. To be fair, while an actor does a fair amount of work when they're acting, that doesn't mean they're doing any more work than somebody with a general 9 to 5. Some do spurts where they're doing their own stunts or running around, and yes, that is a lot of work, but that, yeah.
Look, listen, I'm going to be flat out honest here. I don't care if you are solving world hunger. Nothing gives you the right to act like a high chair tyrant.
Yeah, that's fair. And that's, you know,
I don't
that
care
is
who
that is
you
a
are.
good
I
point.
don't care what you're doing. I don't care how important you are to the future of humanity. It doesn't give you permission to be a dick.
Yeah, that's true. That is a fair point.
That's that's just my attitude on it. I mean, yes, the weakling shuts down, the tyrant opens up, and it's the same for adults. The only slight difference is whereas the weakling child wants everyone to do everything for them, the weakling adult can actively give their power away.
Yeah,
Actively. Now, yes, again, this is something I had to own because people pleasers, we do this.
yeah,
It's the giving the power away. And it's one of those things that actually can build up depression and rage and anxiety and despair and self because you don't own your own needs and
yeah,
constantly giving to other. And that gives away your power, which ultimately gives away your control, which just builds up frustration and anger and rage, and it builds depression and despair and all those
yeah.
horrible things. So yes, we need to own. Sorry,
I was going to say,
I
and to
hear you.
clarify, it is one thing that builds depression. It is not the
One,
only
yes,
thing.
it is not the
Yeah,
only thing.
that's one of
Absolutely,
those.
there are an
Yeah,
infinite number of
yeah,
things that can cause. Absolutely, but it is one of those triggers.
yeah,
It is one of those things that repressing feelings and emotions and giving away your power
yeah,
will
yeah.
will
Sorry.
certainly contribute to. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
absolutely. You were right.
yeah.
You were
Well,
right to
well, and
bring
what?
to weave that in.
So everyone's perfectly clear. One of the reasons I do that is I'm terrified somebody's going to be like, "You said this is the only reason for depression," and it's like, no, no, we're saying
No,
it is a possible cause, not the only
no,
cause. We're not telling you how to fix depression, and I'm just worried that somebody's going to come at us and be like, "You're trying to tell people how to fix depression," and blah blah blah. And it's like, no, no,
no,
we
no.
are not.
Look. CYA, cover your ass. Always cover
Yeah,
your ass. It's always
yeah,
better to come out and say, and yeah, no, I agree. That if I do say something that makes it sound as though this is one thing, it's no, it's just I'm focused on this topic right
yeah,
now.
yeah,
And this is a sign of my masculine transcendent mind just pinpointing on one thing
yeah,
and kind of sometimes forgetting the fine details, which is why it's good for you to point these out when
yeah,
I do omit them. So, no,
yeah,
you're absolutely right in that one. But yeah, the more we repress, the more it comes out unhealthily. And this is one of the things that the weakling does is they give away the power. And again, it can go from the trying to dominate and then snapping into the giving it all away. What's the point? You do it, you do it, you do it, you do it, you do it.
yeah,
And then of
yeah.
course when it all goes wrong, they snap and go back into tyrant.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we've had bosses, we've worked with people like that.
Oh my.
Everyone's
There's a very particular member of my family who I will not name, who does not live under this roof. And I have to point that part out. So nobody living under this roof is going to be like, is he talking about me? No, there's a very particular person from my wife's family who is the embodiment of that. The shadow tyrant or shadow sovereign from right to left. Everything is
yeah.
everybody else's problem until it isn't. And then as soon as it is, then she swaps into tyrant and starts throwing giant temper tantrums. And it's and you probably know exactly who I'm talking about, but
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't want to name names or
No,
this or
no,
that,
that's
but
fair. But I mean,
yeah,
that's actually a good example because they are actually called the bipolar shadow
yeah,
because these shadows swing from one extreme to the other. And when we slip into shadow, which we all will do at some point, we're only human. We're all going to have shit days. We're all
yeah,
going to have days where things hit us and knock us off our perch, and we end up responding from little self rather than from higher self. And the point is, of course, just saying, okay, that I had a moment, and just getting back on top of Tyrant and Weakling, tying the
Yep.
two of them back together. That these are called the bipolar, actually called the bipolar shadows, where it swings from one to the other, and you will never experience one. I mean, in gaming and pop culture, though, there's almost always some kind of shadow sovereign that is playing a role, whether this be the evil king or queen,
Yep.
whether this be the general who's out for themselves, whether this
Yep.
be the wicked stepmother, the evil stepfather, or, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the abusive parents.
Yep. Yeah, in pop culture in general, it happens a lot. Like my example I was going to pull in is Galbatorix from Aragon. He was very much a tyrant.
Yep.
And his whole thing was, well, I need to control everything because I'm the only one who can.
Mm. Well, the tyrant, I mean, the tyrant is where, I mean, sovereign builds. When you stand in your divine sovereign power, the sovereign builds and creates, whereas tyrant tears down and destroys. And
Yeah.
weakling can't do either. It's this passive, shut down, accomplishes nothing state.
Yeah.
But the other thing is there is, and in my research too, there is one aspect that kept coming up as a slightly separate, and we will cover it because it is an offshoot. It is an offshoot archetype, but in
Yeah.
gaming and in pop culture, we see it a lot, and it is typically a feminine derived one. Whereas we usually assume tyrant as masculine, this particular archetype is usually referred to as the Ice Queen.
Yeah.
Now, automatically when we hear the thought Ice Queen, we think female tyrant. That's kind of where the mind goes to. But as an archetype, and we will take out Queen and we will go Ice Sovereign, because
Yeah.
I have seen this in masculines as well. I've seen this in male characters as well, this Ice Queen archetype, or the Ice Sovereign archetype. The Ice Sovereign is hard and cold, yes, but they are born from suffering. Whereas Tyrant is born from, it's often breeding. They were brought up thinking they were better and deserved and entitled to. Ice Queen or an Ice King come because they have had some massive suffering. They've had a heartbreak, they've had betrayal, their family, their clans, their titles, those sorts of things come up. Two good examples of feminine Ice Queen. I mean, we're all pretty familiar with Elsa from
Yeah.
Frozen. She turned into Ice Queen. She was a good example of Ice Queen. She's not evil. She wasn't doing what she did to be horrible. She was afraid, and her shadow sovereign came from fear, because she was taught to fear her power, and she thought she was doing all these horrible things. And if she ran away,
And she almost killed her
no one.
sister.
She almost killed her sister again, but she ran away thinking that would keep everybody else safe. So that was her Ice Queen. The Ice Sovereign tends to build harsh environments for themselves to protect themselves. They seem cold and detached and unemotional, but they're actually, it's all a mask to cover some big hurt. And on the deeper levels, we can look now at the retelling of Maleficent for a really good example of that. Maleficent, she was ice. She was typical Ice Queen too, especially the original way she was presented, Tyrant Ice Queen. But then, of course, they bring out the sort of the what if of Disney, showing this other story that it wasn't her, what had she been through? Well, we can understand why she's so hurt.
Yep.
And that's the other, it's a common villain that we do see. And not so much villain, it's that this person is doing what they are doing because they think it is the right thing to do, that it is the best way to keep everybody else safe, because there is a confidence and a determination that runs through the Ice Sovereign. And that comes from the simple, I will not allow this to happen to anyone else. I will not go through this again. And it comes from the detached shutdown rather than the I want your power. It actually comes from a place of self-preservation. And so I thought that was an interesting one to weave in because we do see, I mean, especially Ice Queen, the literal Ice Queen, but she is almost presented more as Tyrant. And feminine Shadow Sovereign is still Tyrant. It still comes through as Tyrant. But the Ice Sovereign, it comes from this place of wounding, where they are cold and emotionally detached and won't let anyone get close to them. This can be physically, emotionally, but it's all a mask to cover hurt.
Yep.
And they're usually those bad guys. When you hear their story, it's like, oh, I kind of get it.
Which, going back to Elsa being the ice tyrant or the ice queen, ice sovereign, yeah, ice sovereign. It's really funny.
Sovereign.
It's really funny because she's paraded around as the person everyone should want to be in that movie now, because she is the one, she's blonde and blah blah blah, so she's the one who gained all the popularity. It's like the actual character to imitate
Anna.
is Anna, and that's why she's my favorite. That, and I just love Anna because of all the hilarity.
She was quirky. But the thing, and there was, I actually remember when it did come out, when Frozen did come out, and there was all this merchandise and all this stuff pushing Elsa. And there was a lot going on about the whole, the white superiority, because Elsa was blonde and blue-eyed and, this perfect Aryan kind of beauty. She had the magic powers. She had all of these things. It's like, and she was a coward.
Yep. She is not the hero of that story in any stretch of the imagination.
Not at all. And then along comes her completely normal, completely mortal, plainer, simpler, quirky, unusual sister who ends up being the hero. Ends up making the sacrifices, ends up standing in, and yes, she does stand in as hero in that movie.
Yeah.
The masculines in that movie held space for her to be hero, which was beautiful.
Yeah.
Actually allowed for Anna to be hero. But the little girls and we will say merchandising still geared towards the fairy tale princess who wore the pretty dresses and had the magic powers. And that's where we need to change attitudes, because the one you want the girls to be is Anna.
Oh yeah. And that's like, it's frustrating because in my own house, it's kind of the same thing where even Haley, like, she liked Anna first, and I was like, me and Haley's favorite is Anna, but her mom kind of pushed liking Elsa more because they're both blonde and and I'm just like, no, you're missing the whole point.
A lot of it too, there wasn't the merchandising for her either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is where, corporation and where, those putting out the productions need to take more responsibility. And yes, they're starting to do this good work. We're starting to see the changes that really need to happen. But it needs to be all the way through. Yep. And this is one of those little things. You gave them the ability to idolize the broken princess, because even as queen, Elsa was broken princess. Yeah. She was broken princess. She was shadow sovereign. She's ice queen. All these broken archetypes rolled into one because she couldn't deal.
Yep.
Now, yes, we can look and say, okay, her parents embedded in her this fear: be afraid of yourself, be afraid of your power, be afraid of everything that makes you you.
Yeah.
And that unfortunately created Elsa to have the runaway that she did.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, we can't change how we were raised. We can only change how we react. Correct.
And it's a big thing, and that's ties back into the coward and the weakling is, they would. My parents raised me to be like that. That's just how I grew up. That's how I blah blah blah. It's that's kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of these things that we can palm off as just excuses.
Yeah.
Yes, and they might be valid in a lot of ways. Yes, okay, our upbringing in a lot of ways can be shit. You know,
Yeah.
I say this from the place of, I love my mum. I love my family. And they've dropped the ball with me at times in
Yeah.
my life, but I don't hate them for
Yeah.
that because they are the product of their family. They are the product of their parents. They are product of their programming.
Yeah.
All we can do is say, okay, I can recognize this broken pattern that is happening in me, and I am going to be the one that changes. And that is what the whole awakening is about right
Yeah.
now. While we are seeing the big energetic shift, we're seeing the big wake up. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we all have to go and live in a yurt in the middle of the woods.
I love that word. Yurt.
I do
I'm gonna go live
too.
in a
It's
yurt.
just, yes. If anyone doesn't know what a yurt is, look up what a yurt is. It's kind of a special tent. But yeah, there is so much beauty and so much wonder to be able to reconnect to nature on those deep levels. But it's not always bloody practical in the modern world.
Yeah.
We don't all have the opportunity to do that. I mean, we're not all bears living in the woods.
Yeah, except me. I am actually a bear living in the woods. And I can't even have a ritual fire right now, and I'm sad. I live in the land of,
Too much fiery.
yeah, I live in the land of 10,000 lakes in the middle of a fucking drought.
Yes, climate change and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
This is the other part of the awakening. Part of the awakening, you want to know how to be an awakened and aware human being. It simply comes to the making awakened and aware choices.
Yep.
Who you support, what you do on a daily basis, culturally, environmentally, energetically, what you put out into this world. Because I will tell you, the more awake you become, the less you will actually be able to do things that go against your awakening.
Oh, I know. I can attest to that. And the other thing about becoming awakened is understanding, catching, and owning when you're doing some of these shadow things. Like I've noticed with myself a lot of the time recently, I've been catching myself being like, no, that's, where before I'd be like, this is the problem or whatever. I'm starting to go, wait, no, what is my point in it? What is like, why am I going through this?
And that is the big thing. It's the curiosity. It's the okay, and the recognizing the triggers is like the big rush where you just want to react.
Yeah.
It's like something has hit you, and being triggered feels like being slapped.
Yeah.
It
Oh yeah.
literally feels like an energetic slap. It's like bang, that hit me hard. And knowing that, being able to pick that feeling goes, okay, that triggered me. Rather than, oh my God, this person attacked me, blah, 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 I've got to attack them back. It was like, okay, what they just said triggered me in a big way.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
It's then examining why.
Yeah. And it does take time and it does take practice. And to give yourself permission to drop the ball from time to time, to know that there will be times where you don't catch it, and that's okay. This is all, and this is where sovereign is so important. Sovereign is about owning our power, and owning our power means taking responsibility, not from it's all my fault, because it's not. We're not looking at fault. We're not looking at blame. We're not looking at you need to blame yourself for all the shit in your life. No, we're all part. There's always luck.
Yeah.
You can do everything right in this life, and the universe can have different plans for you and throw you a curveball and have you on your ass. That's got nothing to do with who you are and how hard you worked. And sometimes there's just our lessons. Sometimes it's just life. Life can suck.
Hard.
It can suck so bad sometimes.
Yeah.
Some of that we can claim ownership for and fix and repair to make sure it doesn't happen to us again.
Yeah.
And others, we will learn how to overcome and adapt.
Yeah.
That's all we can do. It's like we own what we can own and we learn from what we can't.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. I had thoughts.
It's big
It is.
stuff.
It is. And speaking of big stuff, that's actually something I wanted to have a brief discussion at the end of I'm assuming we're nearing the end of the episode.
I think we've pretty much covered the important aspects. I mean, it was basically when it comes to sovereign is, but we all need to be sovereign in our own life.
Yeah.
So just like we all need to be the hero in our own lives. We all need to be the warrior in our own lives.
Yeah.
And we need to choose the moments that we need to do that. And we all need to be the divine child. We all need to give that child, room to run and frolic and finger paint and, squeal and get dizzy and eat too much sugar and do those, those innocent childlike things from time to time. No, not if you're diabetic. Okay,
yeah, I was going to say, if you're diabetic, don't eat too much sugar. That's just not fun.
But you get
as a diabetic.
You get my point. Yeah, it's the same with me. But again, you get my point where we need to allow room for that childlike innocence in our lives, space for that ability to find, the wonder in the sunflower. That kind of absolute innocence that the divine child can bring through. We all need to be our own heroes sometimes. We all need to be warrior at times. We all need to be sovereign. We all need to be sovereign in our own lives. We all need to own our own power. I can hear you trying to say something.
Yeah, I was going to harken back to the point I was trying to make before I was like, we're getting near the end. And you're like, yes. And then dove into it, which is fine.
Just reiterating. But yeah, I think we've covered everything. But because it's all just Shadow and Weakling and
Yep. What I'm thinking going forward, and if you're agreeable and amenable, is so we're not just doing a long string of heavy topics, one right after another, after another, after another. That we do basically next episode take it to do more of a lighter hearted gaming or pop culture driven episode, and then kind of bounce back and forth a little bit.
I think that's also why Thor came through when he did. It was like, look, we need to weave all this stuff together.
Yeah.
And so no, I'm good with that, as long as we will come back round to the whole the wise man, wise woman.
Yeah, we will cover magician, the shadow aspects of magician. We will cover lover, the shadow aspects of lover, but I think we should do I don't think we should do them all in a row.
No, that's fine. I'm good with that.
One, because you do most of the research for them, and let's give you a break.
Yeah, but as I said to you earlier today, I'm so weird with these because it's like, okay, we're going to talk about this archetype, and I'm like, shit, I need to do some serious research, and then I'm reading it all, going, yeah, I know this. But I have to do the reading in order to get my brain to go, oh yeah, that's right, I remember now.
Yeah, and two,
I'm getting old.
While I love these episodes because it is kind of me learning a bunch of stuff and this and that. I do feel like I'm kind of just sitting here passively being part of it. So
no, that's fair too.
So yeah, I would like to, and I had that thought the other day. I was like, maybe we shouldn't do all the heavy topics right in a row, like from because that we'll lose the people who are here who are like the little more lighthearted topics and this and that, which is
And I also would like to open up that anyone who has something that they would like us to talk about, any area, any element, any aspect of either gaming, pop culture, movies, psychology, spirituality, that all kind of weaves together, come and drop us a line. Leave it in our group, send us an email, send us some questions. We're open for threads to follow. Let's follow the breadcrumbs.
That's about all I got.
Me too. I think we've covered enough with where it's going. I mean, we see it so much in the different aspects all through gaming, all through
pop
all
culture in
through,
general.
pop culture and movies, and movies in particular. There's usually a villain. There's usually some aspect of this to overcome. Even sometimes it comes up where it's that aspect within self.
Yeah.
But let's face it, a good story needs a good villain.
Yep.
And we often love to hate.
You're right.
My earbuds just decided to spontaneously stop working, so I had to unplug and plug them back in again.
Oh, great. That happened to me about 3 times earlier in the episode, so I apologize for any weird noises that you hear. Because now that I've heard it from this end, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's what that noise. I was wondering what that noise was. It's just like, what was that? Oh well.
Yeah.
And I just carried on.
I learned something new about my phone. If you cover the camera, it shuts off the screen. And when I have Anchor going, if you have this, if I shut off the screen because I'm the host, it turns off my headphones.
I can't even check. I mean, I have to have the Anchor open on my phone. I can't even check any notifications I get, because if I do that, it fritzes something. It either drops out my earbuds or it shuts down Anchor. So it's just like, no, whoever it is, you have to wait. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, people, you have to wait.
I will have to probably record a little thing before this one, being like, hey, there are some tech issues in this episode.
Yay, the wonders of working. Yeah. The joys from the opposite sides of the world, almost perfectly.
Yeah.
Almost perfectly opposite. So there's tech issues, slight delay, which is sometimes why we talk over the top of each other. There's like a 1 or 2 second delay sometimes. So we end up talking at the same time and don't realize we're talking at the same time for a couple of seconds.
Also, if you've heard any other weird noises at the end of this episode, my leg's starting to cramp up, so I'm actually pacing back and forth in my office.
Yay.
Yeah.
But I think we're good. I just want to own your power, people.
Yeah.
Own your power. Stop giving it away to other people.
Yep.
Just own it. It makes your life so much better if you can say, okay, yeah, I can own this, because if I own it, it means I can fix it.
I was going to make an ice cream man joke there, but
I was going to say, not saying that you need to go out and fix yourself. We are not broken cars that can easily be, repaired. But if you are feeling that these issues are causing you problems in your life, the whole point of this is to empower you and to let you know that you have the ability within you to fix yourself, to heal these wounds, these karmic wounds, these ancestral wounds that we carry with us, because they were, whether you believe they were taught to us simply by our parents and grandparents, or whether you believe that we inherited them genetically through our ancestral line, or whether you believe this is an energetic karmic thing that you have inherited from past lives, it all comes down to the same. If you do the work, if you focus on, you can heal this stuff. Hell, if I can do it, anyone can bloody do it.
Yeah, fair enough. If I can do it, anyone can do it. Let's be real.
And it's paramount. Those people that know us, know how much this work has changed us.
Yeah.
It's that simple. It makes a huge difference regardless of which direction you come from.
Right.
Oh, thank God for that. I thought I had an alarm still set.
Oh crap, my children are coming home. You killed the podcast. What the hell?
Oh no, I mean, we actually have about 10 minutes more after the alarm goes by the time the youngest actually arrives, but it would just been funny if my alarm started playing through everything. But it actually isn't set. I must have turned it off. I actually had some foresight.
It'd be funnier if your kid just shows up partway through the podcast. Hey, Mom, what's going on? Oh, crap.
Well, that would just be it. Max opening my door, just like, hi. Or, hello.
Yeah.
That'll be his hello.
Yeah, it's not as good as Rex's hello.
No, Rex's hello is much, much better.
Yeah.
You have to go and find a mage with a chicken.
Yeah. Yep. I'm excited. This is also more stuff we'll probably cut out.
Yes, yes, that will make no sense to anybody. Yeah, a mage with a chicken. What?
Yes.
I reckon though, eventually, if we mention it enough, we might get people going, "What the hell is Muppet D&D?"
Yeah. Well, we've already kind of went into it a bit, but so yeah. I will think up a good topic for the next episode.
Alrighty.
And
No,
so yeah.
don't think. Feel into. Feel into.
Yeah.
We do not think. Thinking gets in the way. Feel into what serves.
That's
What
fair.
topic do we feel serves? Because
Yeah.
that's at the end of the day, that was the purpose. Was what serves.
Yep. And exactly.
And if worse
That's why switching topics for the next couple back and forth for the next couple weeks. That's what I felt kind of needs to be done. So
well, the other thing we can do is, I mean, we can go deeper into different specific characters
yeah.
that embody these archetypes. Really sort of delve into and open them up. That is one possibility.
Mhm.
I will, however, get some magician ready.
Oh yeah.
Just in case.
Well, we might record 2 next week anyway, but I also
Okay.
do want to give you a little bit of break so you're not constantly up against the wall doing research.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is one possibility that I'll open, is like, again, pursuing the archetypes through.
Yeah.
Through where, through the different mediums, through different stories and books and things like that. And we can, just ask around our people and friends, who are your favorites, either hero, warrior, or sovereign, shadow sovereign, whatever.
Yeah.
Archetype. That is just one thought. Something else completely different may serve.
Might. Either way, look forward to it. Have a lovely day.
Take care of you.